up all day. I gave my pain to the church so I could be saved.
Bubble gum in your open mouth is the sweetest sight I've seen.
Good hello, and welcome to Fireside Chats. I'm your host, Angel Ledesma. I would like to welcome for our first chat a Chicago native, a drummer extraordinaire. He's kept the beat for many, many groups in and around Chicago. Writes The Accused, Lava Sutra, The Great Chamber Strings, Saint-Tropez. You've also worked with many artists like Epic Soundtracks, our favorite Joe Lasordo and his many projects. And then you filled in with Savage Beliefs, Strike Under, Negative Elements.
The kind of hardcore drummer for hire for a little while.
Yeah.
When all the old folks started to get back together again.
And they call you on, right? Yeah. So, and I've always wanted to know, who you are. Like, where did you come from? How did you become who you are? This, mythical drummer in Chicago that can pretty much play with anybody. I'll just say that.
Man, you are really, really giving me a whole lot of nice stuff here.
Yeah. Well,
I appreciate that.
No, my pleasure. I mean, as a drummer as well, I've been almost like, how long have you been playing drums for? If you were to
I've been playing drums since 1977.
Oh, wow.
So I was 8 years old when I got my first, 9 years old. How old am I? Drums for Christmas in 1977. My folks were kind enough to allow me to actually have drums. Most people of that age would love to have a drum set, and most people don't get them because they're loud.
I guess give me a little bit of your backstory. Like, so you're born and raised in Chicago?
Born and raised in Chicago, Northwest Side, not too far from where I'm sitting right now, actually. Just at the right time for rock music to hit the young kids.
Yeah. And what was hitting your ears at that? Like, what was the first kind of memory that you had of music?
Well, just radio singles, top 40, bubblegum music. But my folks were slightly older than some of my friends' folks were. They were jazz fans, they were classical fans. My mom did some work in the 60s. She worked for Mercury Records.
Oh, yeah.
She worked she was an office person, but worked for Mercury, worked for Columbia, worked for a recording studio, I think, Sheldon Recording, I think she worked at. But yeah, she worked for Columbia Records. Went out on a date with Andy Williams. I have a picture of it. I just moved. All my stuff is kind of in disarray, so I don't have the photo on me, but I'll try and send you one because it's very
okay.
cool. It's a date it's a photo of my mom and Andy Williams at a dinner with the third woman. I think she was his handler or something. The story goes is that he asked her to marry him. And it seems like, after a date or two, that was kind of quick. But she thought he was boring. She didn't like his music. She thought I was boring, middle of the road dude.
Wow. I mean, it was a different time, right? I mean, I don't know, that generation of, like, you see somebody for the first time, you're like, I'm gonna marry them.
That's true. You're right.
So you're kind of in that milieu of just like, yeah, there's music around, but it's not necessarily rock and roll. And then, do you remember like the first kind of like song that kind of stood you on your head a little bit and be like, whoa, what is that?
I can't remember anything specifically. I had an older sister. She's 3 years older than me. So she was listening to radio at the time. It's early 70s. So we had a big We had a big ice cream. It was a big round ice cream tub full of 45s.
Hmm.
Um, to this day, still kind of my first love of records came from that. But we had, Little Willie of the Sweet was a big one. My mom had some too. Gilbert O'Sullivan
Of course.
was a big one. Um, the first, okay, well, the first 45 that I ever had was Billy Preston, Will It Go Round in Circles.
Ooh.
I still have it. I wrote my name on it. I think the only time I ever wrote on a record label.
But at that point, you weren't thinking, or when did you start to think about playing, or was drums your first instrument of choice, or did you have aspirations for other instruments?
Initially, sure, yeah, that was the first thing I wanted to do, but I was 5, and I wasn't gonna get drums when I'm 5. We ended up having there's an acoustic guitar around. Uh, Oddly enough, we actually had a banjo around.
Hmm.
I also liked banjo music. Go figure.
Oh, what's your favorite pickers?
I liked in the past tense. I think I liked the Deliverance theme, the
Yeah.
dueling banjos. Dueling banjos.
I mean, it's a percussive instrument too, the banjo.
Yeah, it is. Not, I don't understand how it's done. Just the way that it's played just confounds me. It's all in the fingers, right?
Sure, yeah, it's those okay, this is a weird kind of, I don't know, deja vu here, but I feel like we almost had the same kind of instrumentation in our home as you did.
Yeah.
I do remember having a banjo as
Hmm.
well. And mostly because I remember the like the finger picks.
Oh, the finger, sure. What the thumb that goes around?
Yeah. And
I like the head, the resonant part of the body sounded like a drum. So great. You should hit this thing, right?
yeah. So you started hitting the banjo.
I started hitting the banjo.
Hmm.
Then graduated to those same ice cream tubs that the 45s are in. If you turn them upside down, they're awesome drums.
Hmm. Totally. Yeah. No, you get a nice bass or a good, if
You
you hit
get
it a
3 or 4 really good hits out of it, and then it just crumbles through because they're not made to hit.
and did you play along with records like everyone else did, or did you
Yeah.
was your favorite one to
Up till, I mean, I would do it now if I could.
what would be the ones that you remember playing along?
Uh, well, this was later on when I actually got drums. I was playing along to my Kiss records, playing along to Alice Cooper records, playing along with Blondie records. To this day, Clem Burke is still one of my favorite drummers of all time. And I mean, when I was playing along to the records, I had fantasies about Blondie driving by my house and hearing these drums coming out. Like, that's the guy. We need a drummer. Clem is sick. That's the guy.
He's
Still,
the best.
still waiting.
Well, the closest I've ever gotten to Clem Beck, or Clem Burke was his uh being in his dressing room at the Chicago Theater.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they played that deep what it was
Room as well.
what's that?
Was he in the dressing room along with you or no?
No, it was the tour with Blondie and Devo,
Hmm.
and this is my catering days, and uh going I had to go into his dress to their dressing room to like, load up drinks, ice and all that. And the thing I remember about his dressing room is that he had kind of like a shrine set up
Really?
with, yeah, so he had I clearly remember this. He had a picture disc Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band record, that came out in the 70s.
Yeah.
He had a frame photo of Keith Moon and like a pair of like I don't know, like stacked heel, like glam boots. And I'm like, whoa, what? I mean, that's
Did he have his own room?
yeah, he had his own room. But so I'm going kind of circling back. So you have an older sister. Is it just you and your sister, or do you have other?
That's right. Yeah.
And of course, so I'm the oldest. So I was the one to turn my younger brother onto music and stuff. And you had the advantage of having the older sister or the older sibling.
And I feel lucky that my folks were really supportive of us being whoever it was we were going to turn out to be. They encouraged our artistic sides. My sister's a dancer and has been a dancer her whole life. I mean, she still does it.
I ask what she does, or where does she dance, or who does she dance for?
Well, she's actually up in Minnesota right now. She's been in Minneapolis for, I don't even know how long, 25 years, 30 years, long time.
Yeah.
She's a flamenco dancer now. She's teaching at this point. But yeah, she's done a lot of cool stuff as well.
Yeah, and obviously there is a connection there, the rhythm.
Yeah, no.
Um, so yeah, so I guess so you started to kind of get interested in playing an instrument, drums at like 8 or 9. You get your first kit. Um, what was that like? What was the first feeling of like? Did you set up your own kit, or did you get help?
Initially it wasn't actually a full kit. It was just pieces, and I started accumulating them over time. Let's see how this goes, kind of a thing. I started with a snare drum and a hi-hat, graduated to bass drum, rack toms, cymbals. Uh, it was like, F yeah, great. It was great. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, gotten your yeah, and then you just how long did you kind of did you practice on your own at first, or did you get other people, or how did that? Yeah.
Oh, I was flailing for a while, for a couple of months. They had me take lessons right away, you know, uh, which helped. I took them for a number of years. I probably could have taken them longer, but at which point I was already playing in a band. So
What do you think you learned from those, or what did you get out of those lessons?
it's just a bit of structure. It's not just flailing and figuring out, just hitting stuff randomly. Yeah, just that there's a way of doing things,
Hmm.
way of doing things, and having them be right for you, setting them up at the right height, so you're not stretching or you're not missing things.
That took me a while to figure out.
I think I've forgotten most of it, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I if you I wish there was photos of how used to set, because and I've met one other drummer that did the same thing, but where he would set up the drums differently every single time he had them set up.
Man.
Yeah, he's
Or he just couldn't remember where things were.
that too. But yeah, I mean, I remember and he passed away some time ago, but he had told me, he's like, yeah, I just want to set up my drums differently every single time and get a different. I don't think he was. I think he was probably striving or looking for what worked for him. And
Sure, sure. I mean, to this day, I still have anxiety dreams. And the dream is I'm on stage, we're about to start playing, and my drum's here, the cymbals all the way over there, and the bass drum is all the way there. Oh my God, what do I do? And it's been a riff on that dream for as long as I can remember.
so that's the key as far as for ensuring that you're going to have a good session, a good show, is that everything is in its right place.
Down, tighten on, my wig's all in the right place. My
Sure.
wig's not in the right place today, and unfortunately, but so so it goes.
Oh, it looks. I mean, I'm just dreaming about that. The day that my hair turns, silver fox white. So it's
I get asked all the time if I dye my hair. Why would you dye your hair gray?
what's the secret?
Happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Age.
Yeah, I mean, rock and roll. It either keeps you young or it ages you.
Yeah, I'm lucky that it didn't age me.
Yeah.
But I live pretty clean for the most part. I was a cigarette smoker, and that was about it
Mm,
all through my life. So
yeah. Are you still smoking?
I'm not smoking cigarettes anymore. No,
Congratulations.
I'm actually at about 20 years now, 18 to 20 years
Okay.
not smoking.
That's great. What's for somebody like myself who definitely needs to quit, I think that's going to be my 50th birthday present to myself. But
That'll be a good present.
yeah.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Oh, sheer will. My third, I tried a couple of times to quit, and I couldn't do it anymore. Smelled, tasted bad, couldn't afford it.
Mhm.
Um, Cold turkey, nicotine gum for a couple of weeks, and a garbage can next to you to spit into it. It's disgusting. I mean, it really is disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, I know it makes us look cool, but
It does. I mean, it does.
but but yeah, no, yeah, I might have to hit you up later when I make that decision. My joke is that I try to quit every decade. So far I've tried to quit 3 times in the last 3 decades.
Yeah. No, I'll be your spotter.
Heard it here, guys. I think a while back I was talking about just how much I love your drum sound, by the way, and like how do you get that snare sound? How do you get like there's so is there a name for your style of drumming? I mean, I came up with, 4 words. I mean, tasteful right off the bat, intuitive. You swing like a motherfucker.
Oh man,
You're in the pocket. I mean, how do you do it? What's your?
I have no idea. I really don't know. Uh, I don't do the same thing twice. I shouldn't say that. I probably do the same thing all the time. It's by feel.
Hmm. Yeah.
I appreciate you saying swing. I think that's an important element in people's playing. The drummers that I like all have that. That's a quality that I do hear and aspire to. Uh, well, I broke my foot when I was 14,
Hmm.
and my bass drum foot, and it's never been the same ever since. So maybe some of it is that.
I mean, how did you break your foot at 14 then?
I jumped off a stage.
Yes. I, I,
Stage dive. I jumped down from a stage.
mm,
Negative
see,
Album playing at Cubby Bear, and everyone was doing stage dives. Everyone was on the stage jumping around. Microphone had fallen off stand, and I was worried that someone was going to step on it and they were going to have to pay for it because that had happened before. So I just went back on stage, put it on the microphone, and hopped down without knowing how to do it. I just hopped down, and my foot crumbled underneath me.
ouch.
Yeah, yeah, ouch. Had a cast on for a couple of months. You can see the cast. There's a picture of Rights of the Accused playing with Minor Threat, which was awesome. Uh,
Oh,
you see my
okay.
crutches in the background.
I mean, yeah. So, okay. So, I mean, well, I definitely want to talk more drums, but something I definitely, obviously, I rattled off all the bands that you've been in, and right off the bat, you're talking about your first band, Right to the Accused.
Correct.
You were the one that placed an ad, correct?
I put an ad up at Wax Tracks. Yeah.
the great Wax Trax Records, and who was the first person to answer that?
The only person to answer it was Jay Younger and Ken Bradford. They had already, Jay and Ken had already been playing. They had a third guy, Perry, who ended up not making it. But yeah, Jay and Ken came over to my house. My friend Mike O'Connell, who lived in the neighborhood, also came over, and became our de facto singer. And he's the only guy who had been in Rights of the Accused the whole time.
And of course, he's featured, well, you as well, in the documentary You Weren't There, which covers the Rights of the Accused, a little bit of the history. And of course, you guys were the youngins of the, whatever, would it be the second wave of Chicago punk?
I think so. Yeah. I think there was us and, excuse me, a few other bands, Negative Element, End Result.
And Resolve, yeah.
Yeah. We thought ourselves as, we were the hardcore bands, not the old punk rock 77 boring old dudes. We were full of vinegar and piss and spit and caffeine and hormones. So we were on poles, chasing each other on poles.
And of course, yeah, I mean, for folks who don't, especially who were born later, the 80, we always like, my girlfriend and I like to say that between 82 and 92 was kind of like the wilderness, as far as like kids kind of running amok and running wild.
Just in general?
I mean, I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys came off to me like almost like well, you guys necessarily troublemakers, but you guys weren't out to cause trouble. You were just out to have fun. Would that be a fair?
100%. 100%. We weren't trying to cause trouble. We did just want to have a good time.
Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of all ages venues at that point. I mean, there was the Cubby Bear that was doing.
Chicago was lucky. We were lucky that the bars were doing all ages shows. They would do 2 shows a night, all ages 7 to 10, over age 10 to whatever. So everyone was playing twice, and you were getting 3 bands in like an hour and a half. Also very cool. And it was, $3 to get in.
Oh yeah,
Band, right?
that's what, like $10 now, or $7.
$10 to get in and then order drinks. But
And
yeah, Cubby Bear was doing all ages shows. COD up in Rogers Park were doing all ages shows. Avalon a little later on, I think we're doing some. West End, a couple of years later, West End was doing a lot of all ages shows.
I was asking about West End. I've never heard of that venue.
Oh, the West End. The West End was at Armitage and Racine. It's a dentist office now. Booked by, I think Sue Miller might have done some booking there originally, or initially. I believe she worked at Cubby Bear, West End, and then on to Lounge Acts. There might have been something else in there too. But between Sue, I think, and Dave Fry, who's kind of a name now.
Yeah, because so Chicago had just was a little bit more open-minded with all ages.
Yeah.
And I guess, and in a way that really helped your, kind of develop your group, your playing.
You've got a place to go play, you're gonna grow into it.
Right.
You give, you put plants in a pot that's big enough, they're gonna just fill it up.
And so, in your first show, so how long, I guess, so you guys, so Rights of the Accused gets together, you guys come up with a set, well, it's like a 20+ minute set or so, or
Yeah.
and you play first show at the Cubby Bear.
Well, yeah, I mean, that didn't mean much at the time. It was a rundown drunk bar for Cubs fans, and it wasn't like it used to, like it is now, where there's just millions and millions of people. I mean, it was no one was going to Cubs games, right?
I mean, so yeah, I guess paint a picture of Wrigleyville circa 82, because I know at least when I used to go walking around there, because of course it wasn't too far from the alley, and there was, but I remember it wasn't the super glamorous Wrigleyville that is now.
No, not at all. I mean, it was still kind of uh, a lot of old wood buildings, clapboard kind of looking, cheap structures.
I know, at least when I was there, it was definitely kind of a wild, rough part of town. Years and years later, with the Cubs winning the World Series, that just completely changed the
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, people came in and bought everything up because the land was all cheap.
Hmm.
Cheap because people didn't want to live there. Probably a lot of crime.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's still gangs. I mean, especially Lincoln Park was just riddled with gangs. But so when you were at the Cubby Bear in July 23rd to play your first show, what was your memories of that first show?
Oh my God, I'm doing it. Finally.
And you were, and obviously, was it a full house? Was it mostly, what
I
was
think there's probably about I don't know, 50 or 60 people there. We played two sets. We played with 6 Feet Under, the singer of which, Ray, went on to be the first singer for Life Sentence down the line.
oh,
And DV8 was the other band that played, the drummer of which, Eric Spicer, went on to Naked Raygun, in a few years. Um, no, it was really pretty cool. Everyone was really supportive. The old guys in the other bands didn't turn their noses up at the young kids. They were real supportive
hmm.
and continued to be. You had asked that before, like how did the older folks cotton to the kids? The bands were always, for the most part, pretty supportive.
Yeah. And something that I definitely picked up about, obviously you guys, the ROTA guys, but then, you were palling around with the end result people and negative, I'm gonna say it wrong, elements.
Negative Element. Well, their brother, the two brothers in Negative Element, Barry and Chopper, their brother Steve was our bass player.
Okay.
So it was just a family affair. They would drive in from Willow Springs. That's where they were from. They
Okay.
would come in on Saturdays, load up the family car and come to rehearsal. And then his brothers would come with, and we would hang out afterwards. There was always going to be a show. So it was like party time at my house all weekend.
Nice. Lots of milk and cookies and
On for when they said, okay, you can play drums, but you know,
and that's the Steffi brothers, right?
Steffi Brothers, that's right.
Yeah. And they also play a lot in not only in your band, but in, just they're kind of a, for me, well, as somebody who plays in a band with his brother or with my brother, I'm always obsessed with other like bands with brothers.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, that must have been it was almost kind of like telepathic with those guys.
Yeah. And they had a very specific sense of humor that I'm still trying to like get the key of.
I pick it up. I mean, it's yeah, no, it's like a brand of humor, and it, like I said, it reminded me of the people that we used to hang out in. So, because I'm from Wheeling, or I'm originally from the north side of Chicago, but moved to Wheeling and kind of fell into this, or fell into a music scene that was around here, and that's where bands like Cap and Jazz, Braid. So that's my
Right.
kind of era. So I saw a lot of those bands do their initial shows, and and of course the Cap and Jazz boys have there's two brothers in that band too. So
Right.
yeah, no, it's definitely. And then the end result guys, like yeah, another another
Yeah, another band of brothers,
yep,
actually.
the Smiths.
Smith brothers. And then I felt, and then all of a sudden then I had brothers around me.
But when you guys did you guys ever have any hassles with the squares, you know, I think we talked about this before about, getting yelled at by passerby, by car, people, guys in cars.
Yeah, that wasn't, I mean, it wasn't really all that bad. We weren't in the middle of nowhere. We weren't in a cornfield, Didn't look all that different. Um,
What was the skinhead scene like? Did you
oh,
ever?
much later. That's much later. I mean, the skinhead scene that came in like the mid '80s,
Hmm.
and it was like whispered, like the skins are here, the skins are here, look out. But I never really had much to do with them at all. They were just at a show, stay out of the mosh pit. Okay, I will stay out of the mosh pit.
Yeah. Did you ever get into, obviously you staged though, but did you get into a pit or two or five?
No, because I had broken my foot,
Okay.
earlier. So I like it was never the same and never healed all that strongly, which is why I walk the way I do now, folks.
Ah, and you were saying earlier that that may or may not have affect your playing, especially with your kick.
I think that has affected my playing. For years, I went heel up. I don't know if you know. So when you're playing drums, there's heel down, and you're using your pedal this way. Heel up is like this, and you're using it this way, and you can really bang the hell out of it heel up, but it's not good for you. It can
Mm.
hurt your back. You can't actually get the speed and the control of it. You're really just like boom, 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 boom. Um, but for years, I mean, you're just like real fast.
Hmm. I said, did you used to get the lock arm?
Oh yeah,
Like,
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh god.
yeah. Yeah, when did you make the shift from just like when did you think that started? When did you start to notice, or did you even notice that you were starting to evolve your playing?
Not consciously, no, not consciously. But I think you start playing different kinds of music, and it's going to change anyway. So bands after Rights of the Accused were not hardcore bands. Lava Sutra, Epic Soundtracks. I mean, that's sort of how quickly they all were together.
And then yeah, and then so you stayed with the accused guys till what, 87?
87, yeah.
Put out a 7-inch single, an album.
And a ridiculous summer tour that ended up being 7 guys in a van driving around the deep south looking for shows that kept getting canceled. We had a whole bunch of stuff booked, and most of them didn't actually occur.
How long was that tour scheduled for? You remember?
It's like a month.
Ooh.
3 weeks maybe.
Okay.
One of our guys' fathers made a little computer printout, which in the 80s, a computer printout was really high tech.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously this is before book your own fucking life and all that.
That's right. That's right. Although we did have a guy doing it, a guy in New York did it, and I think he's kind of infamous, Johnny Stiff. The Johnny Stiff tours, I think other people have referred to. I've seen that kind of thrown around. So maybe infamously not very good of a tour booker.
Hmm. So, was that kind of like that after that tour ended? Was that pretty much it for you, or how long did you stay?
That was pretty much it for me. But it wasn't just the tour. I mean, it was a whole bunch of stuff sort of conspired to have me not play anymore. My mother passed away, and my head wasn't in anything anymore. Um, but the direction that we had been going was not necessarily where I wanted to go along with. So
Yeah. So it was kind of like you could see the writing on the wall, if you will.
I can see the writing on the wall.
Now, bitch, show the state. I don't care. I don't care. It's not
So yeah, you took a little bit of time off in between playing with the rights into the Lava Sutra.
Yeah.
Had,
Uh,
had to
tried,
grieve.
tried going to college for a little bit. Did that for a couple of years,
Yeah.
and then realized that no, I really do just want to be a musician.
Yeah, can't get the music out of us, right?
I can't.
And how did you how did you end up playing with Lava Sutra?
I saw them at a show with. I was there with some friends who were also playing, um, and I liked them. And I just said, I'm gonna muscle my way in. They had a drummer, and they had been playing for I don't know a year maybe,
Hmm.
and continued along for another maybe year before I was able to convince them.
And how long was that group? How long were you playing with that band?
I was in that band from let's see 90. I remember what it was. The last replacement show that was it Petrillo
Yeah.
band shell. The We had gone to that. Me and some friends went to that. And when I got home, I had gotten a call that yes, we want you to play drums. So that was January. It was July 3rd, not Independence Day, but close to it.
Yeah. A very infamous show.
Very infamous last show. Yeah.
Okay, here's another random question. Chicagofest. Did you ever go?
Oh hell yeah. Oh man, to this day the best concert live festival kind of thing I've ever been to. Went a couple
Yeah.
years. I saw a couple of some great stuff. Uh, so Alice Cooper, saw Chicago, which is funny, like not together. Um, but some stuff in the back. Saw the Go Go's on a floating stage. They had the Rock Around the Dock stage, which is I think is where the Star of Chicago uh, tour boat is is moored.
Did go to Chicagofest maybe 2 times at Navy Pier,
Yeah.
but I don't remember any of the band. I mean, I definitely remember seeing music, but it was like I was too young to really like, oh, it's these guys. I do remember like uh, how decrepit that pier was.
It was pretty decrepit. Yeah, it was.
Like in particular, those holes right on the pier, like as you're walking like up and down. Yeah, I mean, I think I recently found some footage from like off-air TV of Chicago Fest, and it took me back. I'm like, I remember being in that crowd. It was like,
Yeah, I've seen pictures. I'd love to see footage.
Mayor Byrne welcomed Chicagoans and other visitors to what she now calls America's biggest and best music fest. One of the main attractions, of course, is food, from fried dough to juicy barbecue. Fest goers are eaters, and eat they did today. The entertainment stages are as varied as the food. One of the popular music spots today was the blues area, where a big crowd enjoyed the sounds. But tonight's big attraction, and the first on the main stage, is Chicago's own Chaka Khan.
I've seen pictures, and it's like right when you enter through what is now, I guess it's now an atrium, probably where the Children's Museum is.
mhm.
It was all open air, and it was just jam-packed, just like sardine can. And everyone, the thing that I remember most about Chicago Fest was you would get these plastic cups, Chicago Fest, right? And you'd be drinking your beer out of it. But everyone, you would save them. And by the end of the night, you would see these guys with like 12 of these cups. You know, they're walking around everything like this. So they had all that beer during the day.
Wow. Yeah, that takes me back. In fact, yeah, my brother and I used to collect those cups.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just the cool. And we did for a while. We had like so many of those Chicago Fest cups. And so
I
cool.
think they all had to have the same size cup, and it's probably for safety reasons. So they're all plastic. So all
Mhm.
the restaurants all had on one side, blah blah pizza on one side, and then the Chicago Fest logo on the other. So
Mhm.
I want to touch back on this Heavy Manners.
Yes.
Their first single had a picture of them live at Chicago Fest, and I had seen it around for a couple of years, and then looked again and realized that I'm like one of the little heads on the front watching them play.
Damn. That's like your Zelig moment.
Yeah, for real.
And okay, so yeah, that was the thing I was going to touch into, and then I got sidetracked. Yeah, the skinny tie bands. What's your opinion on?
I liked them.
Yeah.
Fill in the blanks, loved them.
Mm.
Loose Lips, loved them. Who else?
What was it? Who's that one? Wasmo. What's his name?
There is. Saw him open for Devo. Two ties. That's what he did. He wore two neckties. That was his shtick.
I mean, why be normal, right? That's the
Right. Right. With your like feathered hair.
and that always kind of fascinated me, especially Chicago, like their take of, new wave. Because yeah, there seemed to be like there was, the bar bands, but
The Chicago take was that it was skinny ties, but you still had bell bottoms.
right.
Or like, like dress slacks with like a wide leg at the bottom.
Right.
Never cool. Never look good.
And then, oh yeah, and then of course the drummer would have the 10-piece kit.
Right. Two bass drums.
And that was something else I was going to mention too, is as far as drum, have you ever played more than like I call it the Ringo kit, like the 4-piece?
Not really. I've played on an enormous kit a couple of times. A lot of fun. Completely different thing. You play differently because, well, I gotta hit this, I gotta hit this, I gotta hit this. So
Mm.
what you're doing is going to come out differently because you have too much shit in front of you. But no, it's been either the one tom or the two toms on the bass drum.
Okay. Yeah, less is more, right?
Less is more.
Yeah.
And
Because I
Ringo kit too, because that's the sound you want. You were asking me about snare sound. I mean, Ringo snare sounds great. It's I like wood drums. I like a bit of a crack. I like a bit of a rattle. The snares aren't going to be very tight, but not pingy. You don't want it super like cranked up like the Steve Jordan super high pitched snare drum is not really what I like. But
yeah, no, I hear it too. Like especially in a lot of your drumming, there's like there's definitely there's a crispness to it, but it's not like it's like you're just playing like a very taut skin. There's some depth to it.
it's a little flappy. You detune it a little bit, you tighten it up, and then you detune it.
Hmm.
It's always a work in progress. I don't know that I know how to tune my drums per se. Um, I have a Rogers kit, a Rogers 60s holiday kit, which I absolutely adore, and I'll never go to another brand. But they tune themselves. I mean, the toms really do, double headed heads on both sides. Same with the bass drum. I like a full enclosed bass drum head. Sound guys don't like it. They always tell me, "You're gonna take the head off. You're gonna put a hole in that thing," so they can put the microphone in. I mean, it's hard to control in a live setting, I think, which is why they don't like it. But double sided heads on all the drums are a nice feature.
Yeah, that's been kind of a running joke with drummers versus sound guys about their kit, and yeah, I've gotten that before. It's like, oh, put a hole in it. It's like, okay, well, maybe.
Do you have a solid head on the front?
Actually, with my kit, no. The kit that I have, it's a Ludwig. I think it's like what is it, a 20 inch. Yeah, so I kind of like the projection for me, but also huge fan of the drummer from Can, Jackie.
I don't know how to say his last name, but yes, Jackie from Can is just phenomenal. That stuff blew my head off when I heard it the first time.
So yeah, so from Chicagofest to Taste of Chicago, your time with Lava Sutra begins more or less around that time.
Lava Sutra was late 90s or let me see, early 90s. Jeez, I can't remember what year it is. Yes, 91 till about 95.
You started playing punk rock, but then kind of went in another direction playing with this group. And that's, I always find that interesting when, there's musicians that still play the same type of music. And was it a conscious thing, or was it just like it was a natural progression?
I think it was a natural progression. I mean, when I was playing punk rock, it wasn't the only thing that I was listening to. Big garage fan, garage 60s garage stuff, 60s pop. There was a lot of that. Lava Sutra had a lot of those elements, so that's what attracted me.
And where did you guys play a lot in that time? Like, what were the venues that
Lounge acts a lot. We play Avalon. We definitely played Metro a number of times. Um, did some touring, kind of touring around the Midwest area. We did make it out to New York uh, for one of those infamous industry showcases of the 90s where everyone was going to get signed except
Hmm.
the band you're in.
I think we talked about that. Yeah, I had similar, yeah, CMJ.
Right, CMJ.
one of those showcase and be like, okay, this is going to be our big time. And then, then
We're gonna do it. We're gonna make it.
but yeah, we made it. We made it back home.
We made it out there. We made it off the stage.